Hi everybody, Andy King here, Skill Center Director. I hope you've had a fantastic summer. If you're anything like me, you're probably ready to welcome back some structure into your lives. So I'm delighted to welcome you to the second season of the Coastal FC Skill Center. A special welcome to all of our new families joining us from outside of the club and to the new intake of 2018 players. I'm especially delighted to say that we have 5 teams on both the boys and the girls U8 groups. We're so excited to get to know those players and get working with them. So the idea of this pre-recorded webinar is to introduce or recap what the Skill Center is all about, looking at what happens both on and off the field so that you know what to expect over the next year or so. Whether you're a new or returning family to the Skill Center, you probably have a good idea of what the key features are, but we'll recap those for you in the first couple of slides. Then we'll look at our Skill Center staff, what our on-field focus is for the start of the fall season. We'll touch upon player and roster selection. We'll give you some dates for the diary by looking at our program schedule and our events for the season. And then we'll recap again what the expectations are when it comes to communication. Something that we're very proud of at Coastal FC is our full player development pathway. We have programs for players that are 2 years old with our Coastal Cubs, all the way up until you can only walk around a soccer field with walking soccer. The Skill Center exists in the U8 to U13 window, with players joining us from the indoor recreational program. The Skill Center is an invite-only program and is fed by our large recreational program through an in-depth player identification process. Players exit the Skill Center at the end of their U13 season, moving into either our BCSPL program, which is the highest level of competition at U14, or into our divisional stream. Our BCSPL program gives players access to the Whitecaps Academy or the Vancouver Rise Academy on the girls' side, also giving access to Canada Soccer national team programs. We're delighted to say that we had 3 players that graduated from the Skill Center at U13 move directly into either the Whitecaps Academy or the Vancouver Rise Academy. The stream is fluid, so just because your son or your daughter is selected into a divisional program, that doesn't mean that they can't get into the BCSBL program as they develop, and vice versa. We know that player development is non-linear, and especially at the age of 14, 15, there's so much development that happens. Our pathway continues into the adult stream, so whether players want to play at a premier level or want to just play with their friends, we have programs for everybody. We also have opportunities for our players to work at the club, whether that's as a coach, a referee, or in a different capacity. So a little recap here of the key features of the Skill Center. Starting with our coaching, you won't find a player to coach ratio quite like what we have in the Skill Center. We have almost 100 certified volunteer coaches working alongside some of the most qualified and experienced staff coaches in Canada, all pulling in the same direction to provide this holistic player development program. In the Skill Center, we know how important it is to have appropriate challenge and competition for players. We group players deliberately to provide appropriate challenge and competition. Sport has to be fun, therefore sport should not be too easy or underwhelming for players, nor should it be too hard or overwhelming. Players should have access to a diverse training environment so that ultimately they are developing and having fun doing so. We offer an age and stage appropriate curriculum. All 30 weeks of programming are already planned out in detail, from what we're working on each week to exactly which session we are running to bring out our objectives and areas of focus. The curriculum is designed to be age and stage appropriate and ensures players are appropriately challenged. And finally, the progress of our players is tracked carefully and without bias in line with our grouping method. Players and parents are provided formal and informal feedback along the way to add transparency to the process. We know that it's very important that there's communication between our staff and the parents. Parents, please always feel free to reach out to one of our coaches to get some feedback on your child. Moving on then to look at our skill center principles. These haven't changed from the very start. The terms here in the triangles, they come directly from Canada Soccer. So training will be fun for everyone. Training will resemble the game. Players and parents will receive meaningful feedback. There'll be high contact time with the ball, and training will be accessible. We have appropriate challenge and appropriate competition as our overriding principles. We look at the process versus the outcome. We look at individual development versus team development. That's not to say we don't want our teams to go on and win, because we do. We want them to compete. However, the process and the individual have to come first. And this little term at the bottom here, we want as many players as possible for as long as possible in the best environment possible. So we're going to look here at our program staff. This is our roster of coaches on the girls' side of the program. So we have Stephen Duffy, who is the U8 to U10 lead coach. Steve currently is on the children's diploma with Canada Soccer and also holds his B and youth license. There's myself, Skill Center Director, also the lead for U11 to U13. I hold an A license, youth license and children's diploma through Canada Soccer. Moving on now to our female coaches within the program. So we've got Andy Perotta. Andy has a C license and is a current Women's Premier player. And then we have Melissa Joseph, who's a qualified teacher and also a C license holder. We are hoping to be joined by one additional female staff member and want to really create a space that female volunteers are comfortable enough to step forward and coach. So if there are any moms out there that are interested, please reach out. We'd love to involve you, and most of all, the young female players really, really need you. So please reach out if you're interested. On the boys' side, we're consistent with Steve and myself. We're joined by Adrian Cairns, who holds a UEFA A license, and Mark Baldissimo, who again is currently doing his children's diploma alongside Steve Duffy. So that's our staff, and as I spoke about in that previous slide, these are some of the most qualified and experienced coaches in Canada. But above all of that, all of our coaches absolutely love working with players at this age and stage of development. Moving on then to look at our on-field focus for the start of the fall season. Last season, we made huge progress in the alignment of our teams in terms of identity, style, and philosophy. And this year, we're ready to kick on one more time. As a program, we have a document called a game model. A game model is how we want our teams to play and our players to act in each moment of the game. Alongside our game model is our training model. This dictates how we teach each aspect of the game. These two documents are our overarching guide, and if you are ever interested in getting access to these documents, please just send me an email and I'll send those on to you. Here are just some examples of what we look at within our game model. So we look at how we press at each age and in each game format. We look at how we build up and some of the patterns that we might use in build-up play. We look at our field geography and what we want our players to do and how we want them to act in certain areas of the field. In our game model, we have included animations like the one you see at the bottom here to further paint a clear picture to all of our staff and volunteers to ensure there is alignment with what we are trying to teach and how we are teaching it. In the Skill Center, we are focused on developing the 4-moment player. We see many programs that focus purely on ball mastery or individual play, and while these are important, a player must learn to be proficient in all 4 moments of the game. That's in possession, out of possession, attacking transition, and defensive transition. It's absolutely vital that players are able to make their own decisions on the field. Therefore, we aim to be less prescriptive and more so facilitate a training session that forces players to problem solve in scenarios that they see regularly in their games at the weekend. When people ask, what does a Coastal FC skill center player look like? Some of the words across the bottom here should start to describe them. We want those players to be competitive. We want them to be problem solvers. We want to see them being creative and brave. We want them to be thinking forward first when they're in possession of the ball. And we want them to be relentless when we don't have possession in trying to recover the ball for our team. One big part of our identity and style, and one that we had a massive focus on last season, is having our players be brave to try and build from the back. This is a process, and one where there can be short-term pain, but there is substantial long-term gain. We want to win, but we want to win by playing the right way and with a good style. Remember, they are children learning. Players will make mistakes and they will fail. Our teams will concede goals by trying to build from the back. That's part of that short-term pain. Players will start to become comfortable by being uncomfortable. To help facilitate this, our coaches will be consistent in our messaging. We'll applaud intentions and ideas, even if their ideas and intentions didn't come off. If we need to remind parents to be quiet from the sidelines and not try to give advice or information from the sidelines, then we will do so. We need everybody pulling in the same direction to allow our players to grow in this aspect of the game. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is what you can expect with our on-field execution during training or practice. So the image on the left side here shows the full field. This is field 10, and we've just got an example here. This is our U8 girls on the north and our U9 girls on the south of the field. We have royal and white on the east side and green and black on the west side. Therefore, we have 2 teams per quarter of the field, and each of those 2 teams will have one of our staff coaches. So one of our staff coaches will be on each of the quarters of the field. On the right side here, we've zoomed in even further. So this is Coach Melissa's quarter of the field. She has the U9 girls green and the U9 girls black training together side by side. She might set up the same activity twice and is assisted by our volunteer coaches. So Coach Melissa looks after that session. The other coaches know exactly what she's going to do. She shared the session plan and the objectives ahead of time. So the players have a fantastic player to coach ratio, and Coach Melissa runs a fantastic session with them here. Hopefully this paints the picture for you. Feel very free to stop by, watch training, and you'll see how things run. So here's what to expect when it comes to game day. Our game day objectives will fall in line with the theme from the week in practice. So for example, if our theme has been building from the back, we will set some objectives for our players based around that theme. It also allows us as a staff and as coaches to make sure that learning happened that week during practice. When it comes to our home games, our staff will be present always. Sometimes we will lead the game and be assisted by our volunteer coaches. Sometimes we will assist our volunteer coaches and hopefully affect the players that way, but also give some feedback and pointers to our volunteer coaches. Sometimes the volunteers will lead the game on their own, which might allow us to zoom out a little bit and assess players and look at how the team is performing as a whole. When it comes to tournaments, for the most part, these are volunteer-led. Sometimes they'll be staff-led and sometimes they'll be staff-assisted. But the thing that you'll see for the most part will be volunteer-led when it comes to tournaments and events. Then when it comes to away games, these will mostly be volunteer-led. I think for obvious reasons, we have a lot of teams and not that many staff. However, if one of our volunteer coaches can't be there for that particular day for whatever reason, we will find a way of covering that game off. We're going to have internal game reports in place. So when there is an away game, we're able to get a bit of a report of what's gone on during the game, see if there's any themes for performance, see who played well, see who didn't do so well. So those things will be in place for the season coming up. So a little look now at player grouping and roster selection. So prior to the Skill Center model at Coastal FC, Groups were built with balance in mind. So you can imagine each age and gender has 40 players across that age group. Previously, in a set balanced grouping method, those 40 players were split into 4 teams of 10. In that group of 10, you could have the best player in the group, but you could also have the 40th best player in the group. So what we found is that training sometimes was too easy for the top players within that group, therefore underwhelming and not that fun. It was too difficult or overwhelming for the players at the lower end of the group. Same thing was happening on game day. So whether the team won or lost the game, the best couple of players within that balanced group were getting the success, having all of the touches of the ball, and therefore doing the most developing, whereas the players at the lower end of the group had minimal contribution, meaning they weren't having much fun and they weren't contributing to the team's success. This also has socio-emotional and psychological implications, which also leads to players not having fun, and if players aren't having fun, they'll drop out of the game. So we decided to move towards a fluid streamed grouping method. Fluid in that players can be moved to a different training or playing environment if we feel it's the best thing for their development at that particular time. We know that player development is non-linear, so we know that sometimes players will take a big peak in their development, other times players will hit a wall. We have to find the right place for them to develop at that particular moment. Streamed, meaning that in that group of 40, if we are creating 4 teams of 10, we might have player 1 through 10 in terms of the current ability playing together. We may have then player 11 through 20 and so on playing and training together. With this grouping method, we find that practice is a lot more competitive and challenging for the players. Therefore, it is more fun. Game day, again, is more competitive and challenging, and we find increased collaboration because there's a lot more trust between those players. We also see that the socio-emotional and psychological risks are decreased. Now, there are times where we change our grouping methodology, especially for practice. We may mix up our teams. We may have tournaments. We want players to have access to everybody. We don't want to create segregation within our community and within our program, but certainly for player development, for the most part, our groups are streamed and are fluid. So when we group for games, for the most part, we have 4 teams per age, per gender. So we'll use the U9 as an example here, 40 players. So we have 2 balanced tier 1 teams at U8 and maybe sometimes at U9. So that's players 1 through 20 will be balanced between our royal and white group. And then same in tier 2, players 21 to 40 would be balanced between our black and our green group. Then as the players get a little bit older and we get to know them a little bit better, you start to see their attributes coming out. At U9 or U10 plus, we start to tier in a 1A. So players 1 through 10 will play together in the royal team. Players 11 through 20 will play in a tier 1B in the white team, and so on and so on. Again, these teams are streamed, okay, but they're also fluid. So we have 10-week windows where we have a look and see if there are any trends that we're seeing. If we feel like there's a player or players that need to be challenged in a different way, whether that's at a higher level, a lower level, then we'll have a conversation with the parents. We'll reach out and let people know this is what we're seeing. This is what we feel would be in the best interest of that individual's development, and then we'll make those changes accordingly. And I spoke a little bit before about how we group for practice. So again, often players are grouped by ability or grouped by their team roster, but sometimes we'll have our players grouped randomly, sometimes by their physical attributes. For example, if we're doing a shielding session and we have the smallest player out of the 40 playing up against the biggest, strongest, earliest developer, it may not be the right thing. So we may change by physical attributes depending on the topic. Players are sometimes grouped by understanding of a particular topic. We may group players by position or favorite position at times, or we may even have them group themselves and have them choose their own group to work in for that particular session. Okay, everybody should be aware of the schedule and everyone should be on TeamSnap at this point. but I'll just go over it very quickly here just so that everybody's aware. We also have some other information just on our events and other things for the calendar as we move forward. So on the girls' side, if your child is a U8, U9, U10 or U11, they'll be training on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Friday evenings. The Tuesdays and Thursdays are run by our professional staff and supported by our volunteer coaches. Fridays are our game night. So sometimes we play futsal, especially if you're in the indoor facility. Other times there'll be set small-sided games, and those are opportunities for players to just be creative and play in a mixed environment. And of course, game day will be Sunday for those age groups. Now, if you are a U12 or U13, training is Tuesday, Thursday, but then a third structured staff-led session will be on a Saturday. Games again on a Sunday. Then as we move on to the boys' schedule, same idea. So U8 to U11, Mondays, Wednesdays, they're your professional coach-led sessions. Fridays will be your game nights, so whether that's indoor or outdoor on field 10. And then Saturday are your league games. Then when it comes to U12 and U13s, you're going to have that third staff-led session. That's going to be on a Sunday. So it's Monday, Wednesday, and then Sunday mornings in the indoor facility, again with league games on a Saturday. Now, a lot is said about the club and how we support our multi-sport athletes. We have to say that we do support multi-sport participation, and we recognize the importance that playing multiple sports holds for global athlete development. So how we support it, our program is 4 times a week. So of course there are other days during that week for other sports or activities. We would love you to be at every single one of our 4 events. However, we have a 75% commitment policy. So if you did decide you wanted to miss one of those sessions on a weekly basis, as long as you let us know, we're absolutely fine with that. We like to have individualized consideration for our families. So if you're in touch with us and you say, look, we've got a dance competition that's going to take us out of the program for a week or 2 weeks, no problem. Just communicate that with us. We're aware of what some of these other sports ask for as well. So please just reach out to us and we'll help out. And the other thing that we do, and we're really pleased with this, we communicate our schedule very early. And that schedule, the one that I just went through, is completely consistent. So if you're a U8 starting the program now, unless there's a major change, which I don't think there will be, you'll know the schedule for your child for the next 3-4 years as you move through the skill center. We also, and this is something that was new this year, are offering a training player package for our multi-sport athletes. So that's less participation in the spring season. They do 1 session a week, but also are able to play in tournaments and events. So speaking of tournaments and events, we feel that one of the biggest areas of added value are our numerous tournaments and events over the course of the season. The benefits to these are clear to see, but the memories made and community built as a result of these events is absolutely priceless. 6 local tournaments are included in your skill center fee. These tournaments are carefully selected to ensure appropriate competition for our players. And then we offer opportunities for optional extra travel, which I'll touch upon in the next slide. So our local tournaments then for this year that are included in your fee, we have our first event of the season, which is our Premier International Cup. That's in Surrey, BC, over Labor Day long weekend. We then have Premier Thanksgiving Cup, also local. That's over the Thanksgiving weekend, obviously. We have the Coastal Winter Classic, which is at our indoor center. 4 games played over a 1-day event. Really fun, really festive. We have the Premier Spring Festival in Surrey, BC. That's in kind of mid-April time. We have the Coastal Spring Classic. That's again in Surrey, BC, local. That's over the May long weekend. And then finally, in spring, we have our Premier Spring Cup, which is in mid-June. Each event takes the same kind of pattern, so we'll reach out to you to ask for interest or commitment to these particular events. Once we have the list of the players that are going to attend, we will create rosters and those will be sent out usually a week or so prior to the event once we have the schedule. These events do allow us to see players in environments that they aren't usually exposed to. We love that no matter which roster players land on for these events, there is alignment in style, philosophy, and terminology. Players really reap the rewards of being challenged in different ways, building and growing friendships, and competing for their club. In addition to the events listed on the left side of the screen here, we have some really exciting travel opportunities this year. Starting with the Copa Surf, this event was my highlight of the season, with our teams competing for silverware against a diverse and challenging opposition. We also shared some details regarding a proposed trip to England over the spring break. Those who expressed interest for that tour will be receiving further information very soon. And then finally, this was a fantastic way to end our season. We have the Canada Day Cup in Kelowna, BC over the Canada Day long weekend. Details of these tournaments will be coming to you soon. Again, these are not mandatory. These are additional and optional extras for the program. And finally, just a look into the expectations with communication. As you should be aware, we use TeamSnap for all of our communication. So the best way to get hold of me and our staff is via TeamSnap using a direct chat function. A couple of do's and don'ts then here. Please do mark your child's availability 2 weeks in advance so that we can plan ahead for training and for games. Please do not leave availability blank. A maybe is okay, but if it is blank, we're going to assume your child is not available. Please do message your coach via TeamSnap messaging, but please do not put your message or your question in the team chat. Please do use the private team chat function for things like carpooling, lost items, and positivity. Please do not use the private team chat function to speak about performance of teams, coaching issues, or any negativity. Please do always ask for help. Please do not suffer in silence. We are here to help you, and we have a big staff who know their way around TeamSnap and around the program, so please just reach out to us. So some more here on parent to staff communication. Just a reminder that Stevie Duffy is the U8, U9 and U10 lead. So if you have questions about your child, how your child's doing, which team they're on, Steve would be your first port of call. If your child is a U11, 12 or 13, you can come directly to me for all of those things. I am the Skill Center Director, so if there's something that you don't wish to talk to Steve about, or it's maybe a bigger picture item, feel very free to reach out to me. This is my email address, but again, the best way of getting hold of me and the quickest way of getting a response will be directly through TeamSnap. If you don't wish to talk to me about something, please go directly to our technical director, who is Mark McQueen, and you can send him an email on the email shown on the screen here. Please respect the 24-hour rule. We do know that football, soccer, or sports in general is an emotional game. Often we're feeling certain things after a game or after a training session, but we do ask that we take a breath and we respect the 24-hour rule. If you do message us within 24 hours of a practice or a game, please don't expect a response straight away, because we also will take that 24-hour rule to let all emotion die down. We appreciate you respecting that. And again, some more do's and don'ts for parent to staff communication. Please do ask for feedback on how your child is doing in the program. That may not be a good question to ask 3 days into the program, but if you give us a few weeks, certainly we'd be happy to discuss how your child is doing. Please do not be in touch with us to tell us how good you think your child is. We really hope you think your child is really good and the best thing on earth, but we'll have our own professional opinion, and we're happy to give you that. Please do let us know if there are big or significant things going on for your child. These could be really, really important in terms of dealing with that player as an individual within training or games. Please do not ask us to move your child to a different roster or group. The answer will be consistent. Certainly, let's discuss any issue that might be going on, but please don't come straight up and say, I would rather be on this team or this team. It won't happen. Please do reach out if something is unclear. We are here to help. Again, please do not talk in small groups or silos. This will only elevate the problem, and likelihood is the answer that you're getting in these small groups won't be the correct answer. So please reach out to the relevant member of staff. And again, please do give us feedback. Listen, we're not after feedback about our coaching or the program delivery. That's something that we feel very confident and comfortable with. But certainly we want to improve our communication to the program and our service to our members. So please do give us that feedback. There'll be formal feedback windows, but please feel free to reach out. Please do not be disrespectful to our staff. We want the same things as you do, so let's do this together. It is disrespectful to approach our staff on the field or while they're coaching. So again, please give that 24-hour, observe that 24-hour rule before getting in touch with one of our staff. We're people too. We of course make mistakes, so please be respectful with your communication. And there we have it. There is set to be more communication in this format, hopefully a little bit more bite-sized, but it's absolutely key that we address certain aspects related to the program and what that means for you and your child. We know how important communication is, and we're committed to making sure that our communication improves from one season to the next. We learned so much during the first cycle and have made moves or tweaks or adds along the way. Overall, the overriding feeling is that of pride. The level of alignment across the program has been staggering, even to me. We're really starting to see a program-wide identity, and that is a result of a lot of hard work, planning, and the buy-in of our outstanding volunteer coaches. We can't wait to see what year 2 has in store for us. So thank you again for your support. Thank you for listening in, and we'll be in touch again soon. Here's to a great season. Cheers.